My name's Katie Hopkins. Thank you for coming back and joining us here. I'm with Tommy Robinson, and we just got to a very upsetting point about Tommy's physical and mental, I would say, torture inside, with his family is being threatened with acid attacks, police arriving at his wife's home, his mum's home, to say they will be threatened or they will be attacked with acid, but they're not allowed to defend themselves. Meanwhile, Tommy being inside, knowing that the people he cares about most in the world may be attacked. Such a difficult thing. So now we're going to move forward to Tommy's story from here, from today's date. And currently, as it stands, you are going back to face another judge. That's correct, isn't it?
I'm going back to face another trial. Now, my case was quashed. There was just numerous things that they'd done illegal.
So improper sentencing, improper charge,
the whole lot.
Improper. It was all listed out. Basically, the whole case was improper the way that the judge tried it.
They had no choice but to quash it when they heard it. But a previous case where one single thing was done wrong, the case of West, and it was Lord Leveson who quashed that one. When he quashed it for one thing being wrong, he didn't quash it for a retrial. He quashed it.
Gone.
No retrial.
Yours was quashed, but with a retrial.
Mine's quashed, and now I'll face a retrial, which actually goes against previous law because that's not what happened. So now I face a retrial, and if I was sitting here and I was facing a retrial, bearing in mind this is for breaking a reporting restriction.
Breaking a reporting restriction. So contempt of court.
Contempt of court for breaking a reporting restriction. Now, Rod Liddle broke a reporting restriction on the Stephen Lawrence case. He didn't individually get. The company he was working for got a £5,000.
His employer got a fine of £5,000. You're going to face. You have a date. I had
a date of the 4th of September, which I've just found out. I found out earlier.
Today,
that it's not now going to be on the 4th of September.
Hold on. So your retrial date that I knew was the 4th of September. You just found out this morning it's not.
It's not, because again, they still have not put forward their case of what it is. To this point, right now, here, I still have no idea what it is that I've said outside court that they're saying has breached a restriction. Because bearing in mind, we know the law states they can't have a reporting restriction on information that's already in the public domain.
So as it stands, for complete clarity, you have a retrial. We knew that there would be a retrial.
At the Old Bailey, which the Old Bailey is for the highest terrorism cases in our country.
And it's going to be heard at the Old Bailey.
It's heard at the Old Bailey before
but we don't have a date.
Before the head judge of the Old Bailey.
So your retrial will be at the Old Bailey, which is for the most serious crimes in the land, in front of the head judge of the Old Bailey, the most senior guy in the land, for a crime that hasn't been made clear to you yet what it is what law you've broken.
And
you've never pled guilty.
For a crime of contempt of law, media, never in 70 years has anyone ever been imprisoned. In fact, in their guidelines, they say that to imprison a journalist would be seen as draconian.
Draconian to imprison a journalist. Never before in the history of British law has someone been put in prison for contempt of court, correct?
Correct. And do you know the day before my appeal, which I was released on, the Attorney General, the government, interfered and actually had to be corrected by my legal team and put in place that what they were saying, he was trying to act as a prosecutor, which was not his job, trying to prevent me being freed. Anyone that doesn't believe, that still says this is not political.
Oh.
Anyone who can't see, if I'd have been this reporting restriction, 2 weeks after I was imprisoned, a Scottish Telegraph newspaper breached a reporting restriction twice. Let's just, so people understand, reporting restrictions are regularly breached, okay? People get a small fine. Now, it's only the fact that I was talking about Muslim paedophile gangs that has resulted in me being in prison for 30 months.
Okay.
That's it.
Let's go now to Tommy. We appreciating now, all of a sudden again. Now I'm thinking as a wife now, right? So let's imagine it's my husband. Imagine it's, I'm your wife. It's a terrible thought for you right there. That's worse than prison. But imagine that. So all of my things is geared around the 4th. The 4th, that's when Tommy's going to be, that's when his next trial is, the 4th. Now suddenly today, it's not the 4th.
But that's done on purpose.
I know, but there's children involved here. There's a wife, there's a mum. These dates matter. So let's put you now, you're going to be in front of the judge. Let's put you in there in the Old Bailey. Tommy, what's going to happen?
I'm going to be convicted. I'm going to be found guilty and put back in prison.
You're going to be found guilty.
You said this date's changed. Did you see It took them 5 hours to put me in prison. It took me 2 months before I could get before a judge to prove the case was illegal. Even once the judges heard how wrong it was, they still kept me in prison for another 2 weeks.
Yeah, till the end of August.
Until they then let me out.
End of July, sorry.
They could have let me out instantly then on bail. They still held me for another further 2 weeks. And originally, my appeal date was the 10th. They put that back.
I remember this.
And the reason why, they weren't ready. What is there not to be ready for? You've had 3 months, 4 months. You're still not ready now. And this is where I know the intentional things, not just this, that's gone on over the years. It is a weight on your mind. They know that.
Of course it is.
You can't get on with your life. You can't plan your life. They know that there's no. I can't sit. I wanted to come out of prison and make my plans for what I want to do.
The date you say you're going to be found guilty.
Yes.
And you say that you're going to go back inside.
If I could have 12 members of the British public give their verdict on my case, I will be found not guilty instantly. I'm not being tried by the British public. In fact, it's the Attorney General's office. This retrial, the CPS, it's nothing to do with us.
The Crown Prosecution Service have said they don't want to have this trial.
No, this is the Attorney General. This is the government.
The government want to have this trial, and you were just about to say, I'm sorry for interrupting, you were saying to your wife about the dates changing, about them pursuing this, about you going back to prison.
I said to my wife, it's like my previous cases. In my previous case 4 years ago, mortgage fraud, which wasn't more, again, but with that, I said, with my previous case 4 years ago, I knew the whole way through what they were doing, which I know now, yeah. And at the end, I'd be offered a deal. That was on my previous case, and I was offered a deal. And the deal was that if I plead guilty, they leave my wife alone, which they put in writing. Now, I know now, when I come up to this case, I'll be offered a deal.
You'll be offered a deal?
So.
What deal do you think you'll be offered?
If I plead guilty, that they will give me time served and I will go home.
If you plead, you believe in your next, the retrial, that's the correct term, isn't it? If you plead guilty, they will let you go for time served.
Yes.
And in many ways, that's a happy outcome for everyone because they're guilty. Oh, look, we weren't wrong after all. You've done your time, but you don't go back to jail. Will you plead guilty?
What I said to my wife, which I need to know, I have my wife's support, my family's support, is I said that I never ever, the last thing I would ever want to do is bring down a court case that would affect those young victims. That goes against everything I've ever stood for. So I could never accept that anything I said, because I know it didn't, prejudice that trial. Because I know it didn't. We know it didn't because the trial went ahead. So I said to my wife, if I was offered this, Jenna, if I was, like, I can't. And then she said, I'll still be here when you get out. So.
And you said that to your wife?
I said to my wife.
Where were you when you said this to your wife? Where were you?
I was like, because you know this sentence.
Just on the sofa, like, yeah. I'm trying to imagine.
So this sentence has hugely affected my son. Yeah, obviously affected my whole family, but my son was in pieces, and knowing that it could happen again, or it will happen again. Essentially, it will happen again. It's going to happen again. Knowing that it's going to happen again, and then the threat, even though I was with my mum yesterday, she said, but you'll get killed in there. Yeah.
And I've seen the letters from your mum.
So my mum
Thank you for sharing. Your mum wrote multiple letters every single day. She wrote a letter to the prison authorities saying,
Prison Minister, government.
They're going to kill my son. I've read the letters. They're very hard to read, Tommy.
She begged them to feed me.
She begged them just to look after you, just to care for you a little. She begged for even the smallest things for you. That was your mum begging.
So I obviously know what my actions, the effect it has on my mum, on my whole family, the worry.
Your mum said they'll kill you. So let me just go back to you and Jenna sitting on the sofa at home, and you're saying, what do I do? Do you back me if I plead not guilty?
My wife and she said, I'm still here I'm still here. My wife has, in the early years of this, in the early years of my activism, my whole family were begging me to stop and trying to make me stop. I think that they're fully aware that's not going to happen. And I think that the government, if this is intentionally done to break me or silence me or stop me, surely by now, whoever's behind these little decisions, surely by now you realise it hasn't and it won't. And quite now, my voice coming out of prison, whether it be if you send me back to prison, when I come back out, it will be to a more accepted voice, a more respected voice. More people will listen to me than they ever have. And people right now are sitting disgusted, astonished, shocked. And do you know the letters? When I got letters, it felt so much. In fact, I got letters from so...
Hold on. So the letters that you received inside, are they the things that kept you going?
The letters I received inside, it also made me very aware of just how passionately people are feeling about the state of this country, about the treatment, about what they can visibly see as unfair. When they visibly see something as unfair, we have had a prison officer sacked for merely saying that he believes what happened to me was wrong. We've had a school teacher sacked. We've had a fire brigade officer sacked. People in this country feel so silenced, so oppressed.
And let me ask you then, and I hear you, and I know what you're talking about. I saw you walking out of prison with those bags full of these letters because you wouldn't leave them behind.
No.
You've brought all those, every single
I've
letter.
got them from every prison sentence.
And you've got every single letter because they are almost like...
I know what it means to them.
I think that's it, but also I felt like when you were carrying those bags, I felt like you were carrying all like the hearts of the people that kept you going just a bit, like kept you slightly sane.
Yeah, the support was unbelievable. Still is. It's a shock, and it's also such a satisfaction that after years of slander by the media, do you know what? That's the most sickening thing. It's sickening that in 2018, someone can be talking, which is all I was doing, on a street, talking politely and calmly, not inciting in any way.
No weapon, no nothing.
Quite the opposite. Can be taken off the street, can be put before a kangaroo court in Britain, can be not tried but just sent to prison, can then have every right abused, can be put and mentally tortured with not just can that happen, but with the entire support of the mainstream media and the government and every political party going. No elected member of parliament in this country, in this whole entire country.
They're just there.
Not one of them, in fact, because people wrote to me every day and they all wrote to their politicians and they had a generic response, which was obviously planned from there. This is what we say, and it was generic and sent out to everyone that I should be in jail, that I pleaded guilty to being in prison. Not one single person took the time. Not one barrister, not one media, not one journalist, not one politician took it and thought, hold on, if 600,000 people have signed a petition in a week, if this video has gone all around the world, the entire world's media, politicians are coming from around the world, whether it be congressmen from America. Do you know, whilst all this was going on, I was seeing the reaction, it made me feel great. No matter what was going on, it made me...
And let me take you from that channeling the American politician that came, the congressman who I support.
Geert Wilders, who I've admired my whole life.
Your wife,
Yep.
mostly your wife and children, for your wife to say, do you know what, Tommy, I'll still be here when you come out. Will you stand there and say not guilty? Is it all of Tommy Robinson that willing to face it again, that brutality, the razor blades, the shit thumped through your window? Are you willing to do that again because because of your pure authenticity that what you did was not wrong?
Yeah, it's not what I did. It's not just what I did was not wrong. It's what it represents. It represents far more than Tommy Robinson. What currently this has happened when I've been in prison is a movement that has created that is not solely about Tommy Robinson. It's a movement of feeling from people in this country who feel that they're not being represented. And that's not even about my story or me personally. This is people see, hold on, not if their attempts to silence me, it's to silence you. It's to silence the public. It's to silence, if they want, and we've seen this, it's going on across the world, the deplatforming, the taking away of social media platforms, and then the government and the oppression and the arrests and all of these things that are happening. It's not just, if they silence what I say, they silence what you hear. And I think it's gone so far. And in fact, if I say, which I've said to my wife, if I say I'm willing to die, which I am willing to die, because I see that you must have had these thoughts. You must have thought that at some point, if politicians on the other side are getting murdered, at some point, I'm sure some people will have intentions to do it to you. So you have to make that decision. Do you run and do you hide? And the main thing that right now is really eating me up is that I like to fight. And if something's in front of me that I can battle, I'd stand there and fight it. But what they've managed to do and what they've done cleverly is to cause me damage that is hard to fight.
And so how do we help you, Tommy? I'm thinking now as we go to this and we look at you standing before in the Old Bailey, being sent back to prison, as you say you will be, refusing potentially to plead guilty because you know you're not, and because of what it stands for and what it represents, which is that you are going to stand firm for Britain.
I think that these laws, basically, one thing I haven't covered is that I believe that this is what I solely believe on these reporting restrictions. America doesn't have these issues. You can't have reporting restrictions in America. There aren't contempt of court laws in America because they have genuine free speech. Now, if, for example, in these cases there weren't reporting restrictions, the last 5 major Muslim grooming gang conviction cases have had these reporting restrictions. If there wasn't, every single day we would hear in our media and online, and the public would read every day of the horrific, sadistic, sickening, disgusting, barbaric things that were happening to these children. We'd hear of the comments made to the children, the racial comments, the religious comments. We'd hear it day in, day out. Now, by putting a reporting restriction and saying that it's to maintain a fair trial, then what we get at the end of a year-long trial of whether it be 30 men or 40 men, and there's all these, you'll get one day's news. And if you miss that one day's news, then it's gone. And I think that that's what these reporting restrictions are doing. If I stood outside court and nothing I said could prejudice that trial, then why am I being imprisoned for it? So
let's just go to this, not the end point, but you're willing to die for what you believe in?
Yeah, no. I know, I think I will die for what I believe in, and I'm not willing to, so I don't want, of course I don't want to, which is the main point now was the thing I want to write to my children. I want my children to understand how much I love them, the amazing traits they have, and that, again, I can't even talk about it. No, that's fine. Yeah, if you say your children, it's always going to set you off, and it's that you weren't willing to die, but you weren't willing to step away from the fight. We've said whether it be death, prison or glory, I've said that for years, death, prison or glory we shall not submit. And I believe we're being forced to submit our rights and our freedoms in this country, and future generations will look at us with utter contempt. If they put you back inside, Tommy, because I said they'd find you guilty and they wouldn't put you back inside, but you say they will. No, they will. How do people help you? How do they support you, Tommy? Because you won't be able to talk to them when you're inside. People have supported me immensely. They've supported me with my lawyers. How do they help you best? If you go back inside, how do people help you? I just think that people just need to share. You know, I know what a brave thing it is, even just to share an article, just to share a story, to share a video, to speak. That's it. To speak, more speech, not less speech, more debate, more talk, more public attention, more public awareness. The secret courts, I said before I come in here, we have secret courts going on in this country. Not just for the grooming of hiding them through reporting restrictions, we have terrorism cases that are being heard in secret. We're not allowed to know the details. And I think that the path we're heading down, which is our freedoms are being taken away. And when we talk of, apparently I'm guilty of contempt of law. Westminster, I always say minister. You're fine. This is the Minister of West. Are guilty of contempt of civil rights. Their contempt for free speech, contempt for democracy in our country. Even if we look where so much is going on, where I think that, and this is what my wife isn't into politics. She doesn't think as deeply as me, and I try to explain to her that if someone has to fight, let me fight, not my son. And where we're headed as a country, our next generation will look at us and they will never forgive us for letting the current situation go. And is that something that your message you've given to your son, that you fought
for him.
That I fight for them, and that we should never be coward. And if I'm morally right, and even if I'll go even into my wife's father. My wife's father will say to me, what are you doing? Like, am I right? If I'm right, if I'm morally right, then I'll do what I have to do, and I'll say whatever I have to say, and be it wherever it is. And if that means being imprisoned or being killed or being murdered, for speaking on a moral basis of what is truthful, what is factual, what is evidential, and our country is heading into such a bad place, and no one can say it's not. Everyone accepts this.
It's a morally right position.
If you're morally just, and even at times, look, over the years, I have broke laws. Yeah?
You've done the wrong thing. You've made bad decisions. You've done horrible stuff that you wouldn't look back and be pleased about. All the stuff that people bring up every single time. He's done this. He's mortgage fraud. He tried to get into America without this.
But you see the trying to get into America, I knew what I was doing, and I knew it broke the law. But I went with a warning to America. And that was a warning to America, not about what I've read on books. I wish someone come to this country 30 years ago and said, listen, this is what's going to happen.
Tell me, Tommy, because we have to stop talking, although I could talk to you all day. If you've got this message for people, clearly your message is if you go back inside, obviously people can support you by writing letters. They matter to you. They keep you relatively sane. They could write to you every day.
I go back into prison now before, when I went to prison, I was aware that if I was killed, which I wrote in my letter from prison that was published, I said if I was killed, I was conscious, in the back of my head I thought it's not going to make a difference. I'm going to have done all of this and it hasn't made a difference. When Lee Rigby got beheaded, I thought if a soldier can be beheaded on our streets and nothing changes, then if I'm killed it will be forgotten. And when I saw the public's reaction to my imprisonment, I now go back into prison knowing that if I'm killed, that I believe it will be the light of a revolution. And that, for me, is so satisfying to know. And so I can walk, it's like I said to my wife, I walk into court with my head up, yeah? And I walk out of prison with my head up.
And I wonder if you pled guilty, would you be able to do that?
No, I won't. And this is that's the difficult position I'm in, because it's the difficult position I'm going to put my children through again. But I have to, and I have to remain that. And that's not. Yeah, I walk around with my head up. I've always walked around my head up. I know that the accusations that are thrown at me constantly, the lies, are completely false. And anyone now questioning and seeing this, we're at a moment where the media are distrusted more than ever in this country. The politicians are distrusted. The media, people know they're lying. People can see they're lying due to social media. People know that there's nothing hatred. People say you do it out of hate. What we do is out of love. And I love my children. I love my country. I love its future. I love our culture. I love our identity. I love our history. And to give that up, to be coward and silenced through intimidation from there, that's what it is. And
tell me, Tommy, as a message to people, and I want to give you the last word because it doesn't sit with me here. And this could be, when I'm thinking about it realistically, the last time people hear you speak, potentially before you do go back inside, if that's your true belief, which it is. What is your message that you want people to remember here in the UK, in America, in Australia, in India, in all the countries that are looking inwards towards you, towards people that help push back this inability to speak? What is it you want them to remember or hold on to?
The truth. The truth is a weapon that's on our side. And right now we're in an era of complete deceivement. Deceivement supported by our politicians, deceivement. That's what it can only be described as. For our whole country's history, our previous leaders, Gladstone, Churchill, American leaders, all of them have always been open and honest. Army leaders, clergy leaders have always told the truth and identified Islam for what it was, the biggest threat to our nation, the violent ideology there is. The public right now are being lied to and deceived into believing that there is a peaceful solution and that Islam is going to integrate and assimilate into our country. The truth is the weapon we have, and right now what I see is such a galvanising important moment is that the majority of Europe, when we look what happened at the elections in Austria, in Italy, the formation of these groups working together, the Czech Republic, Hungary,
Germany,
Poland,
Sweden,
Germany, it's coming, and I sit here knowing it's coming, and I sit here happy, excited, But I also know that to get to where we need to be, there's going to be a lot of chaos. But to know that the people are waking up, that
It's coming.
a revolution, we need a political revolution in Britain. We need that led. We need a political party to pick up. This country is ready and primed for a populist revolution, where the public, we've seen in recent polls, I see when I walk around the streets, that this facade that I'm the most hated man in Britain, I see the passion in people, and I see that this country's ready for it, and the establishment. And I remember 8 years ago, standing on stages saying the swing from left to right, you can't stop it. And it's quite humorous to think that the police think they can stop it, the government think they can stop it, far left funded Soros organisations think they can stop it. You cannot stop it.
Tell me,
we're on the right side of history.
if something happens to you, you die inside. Is there hope?
I sense by the reaction from when I was put in prison, I said, many people write me letters saying, you give me hope. That reaction gave me so much hope. And it gave me so much hope because I know I sit so deeply and think about the state we're in. And then is there an answer? Can we solve it? And then I remind myself that just 5% of this population follow Islam. And we have to wake up the country. People have to care. People have to care. A lot of that's been intentionally driven out of them. A lot of it, the guilt that's been put into our generation of youth. But there is something coming, and that feeling of pride, not just pride in who you are. You install that pride back in the British youth, then this will not be a lot of what's happening won't be tolerated.
And the final thing for your wife and your children, a message that lives on.
I want to, in a positive thing, I want to lead, be involved in, and give people the platform to hear the other side of the story, to hear the truth, to hear the facts, to hear what the mainstream media are hiding. I believe that right now I've seen what's happened recently to Alex Jones in America with his removal. I think that we need to everyone needs to create a platform, that we have a channel. This is what I want. My plans were all the time to create a channel for the public to know that if they want the truth, where to go to get it.
You've got support. You can start to talk. We have people that will support you. If you go back inside, we'll start all writing.
Yeah.
And your message is one of hope. And that to your wife and your children, when you come back out, you'll renew your vows.
Yeah.
And to the people that supported you on going in, you're going to create this platform.
It's hard to explain. You know, when I watch the videos and I see how many people, it's such a feeling. It's like, wow.
You've got a voice.
Yeah.
The beautiful thing, Tommy, about what's happened is that before you may have been a random guy from Luton that people could disrespect. What they did over there is they made you a martyr. And instead of silencing you, they've made your voice louder. And I think as populists unite, you will be a key figure. And I think we look forward to you coming back out and joining us again.
So do I.
Tommy Robinson, thank you very much indeed for your honesty, for sharing at a level that's quite extraordinary. And thank you very much.
I spoke about it as well.
I know. Thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you.